Who on earth invited help? Letitia Sterling's sharp voice cut through the ballroom's gentle hum like shattering glass. Champagne flutes paused midair, and a dozen pairs of eyes swiveled towards Elina, who stood frozen by the elaborate dessert table, wondering whether to flee or pretend she hadn't heard. Gabriel, the son of the host, hadn't arrived yet, but he was coming. And when he did, no one in that room would ever forget what they were about to witness. Because on that night, amidst the calculated luxury and quiet venom, he would declare for all to hear, "This woman isn't my nanny. She has always been my mother." And in that single moment, the entire evening would be turned on its head. It was a kind of party meticulously designed for society magazines. Rented heirlooms, free-flowing French champagne, and waiters in pristine white gloves. The Sterling mansion was playing host to a curated list of industrialists, politicians, journalists, and their surgically perfected wives. The occasion was a celebration of the family's new international business venture, but for Elina Alves, it was an obligation. Gabriel had insisted she be there. The young man, nearly 18, had pleaded with her to come. He said it was important, that he needed her by his side. "A party like this isn't for someone like me, my boy," she had whispered, but he wouldn't take no for an answer. He bought her a simple, elegant dress and had flowers delivered that afternoon with a card that read, "Tonight is for us." She had arrived early and alone, finding a quiet corner where she hoped to remain invisible. But Letitia had seen her. Letitia, a lifelong friend of Gabriel's father, was a former beauty queen who now thrived on appearances and veiled insults. Spotting Elina near the pastries, she narrowed her eyes and glided over. "Excuse me, are you with the catering staff?" she asked, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Pardon?" Elina replied, confused. "It's just," Letitia said with a venomous smile, "we're used to seeing the staff in uniform, not mingling with the guests." A few people nearby turned to watch. Snickers rippled through the onlookers. Elina took a step back, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cause a scene. I'm leaving." But Letitia moved to block her path. "Oh, don't be silly. I'm just curious. Are you here because the little boy still needs someone to tuck him in at night?" More laughter followed. Across the room, Carlos Sterling watched the entire exchange from a circle of investors. He remained as impassive as a statue. Elina lowered her gaze, staring at the floor. She was clutching a glass of grape juice, and her hands were trembling so violently the dark liquid sloshed against the crystal. "I was invited," she managed to say. "Of course you were, dear," Letitia scoffed, loud enough for everyone to hear. "And I've been invited to Buckingham Palace to polish the silver." Elina tried to turn away from the mocking laughter, but she moved too quickly. The glass slipped from her grasp, and a splash of purple juice arched through the air, landing squarely on the pristine white dress of a nearby guest. A collective gasp, then a sharp shriek. The room fell silent. "My dress!" the woman cried out. "She ruined my dress." Letitia's eyes went wide with performative shock as every guest turned to stare. Seizing the moment, she made a grand gesture. "You see? This is precisely what happens when you mix the staff with civilized people. You're simply asking for tragedy." The word staff hung in the air like a verdict. Carlos took 2 deliberate steps forward, but said nothing. He simply caught the eye of a security guard near the entrance and gave a subtle, sharp nod. Frozen in shock, Elina felt the weight of 100 stares. She could see smirks. Smartphones held up to record her shame and the polite indifference of those pretending not to see. The guard approached her quietly, his voice low and professional. "Ma'am, Mr. Sterling has requested that you leave." She could only nod. Not a single tear fell. Her walk to the grand entrance felt like a mile, each step like dragging her feet through wet cement. The moment the heavy oak doors closed behind her, the party roared back to life. The band struck up a new tune, laughter erupted, and Letitia took a fresh glass of champagne from a passing tray. Outside, the iron gate of the mansion closed with a cold, final click. Elina walked to the end of the long, manicured street, sat down on the curb, and finally pulled the painful shoes from her aching feet. The shoes were too tight. None of it was hers. She sat in silence on the cold curb, her hands still trembling. The manicure she'd carefully given herself that afternoon was already chipped. She looked up at the sky. There were no stars, only the muffled, expensive sound of the party carrying on as if she had never existed. A voice came from behind her. "Elina." It was Gabriel, his tie askew, breathing hard with his phone still clutched in his hand. "I saw. I tried to get out sooner, but they held me up at the door. What happened?" She gave a tired, crooked smile. Nothing. I just stepped into a world where I don't belong. He knelt on the pavement in front of her, his eyes red with fury. I swear to you, I will not let this stand. Don't do anything, she said, her voice firm for the first time that night. I'm used to it. Don't ruin your name because of me. Gabriel stared at her, his voice thick with emotion. But you're my family. She rose slowly to her feet. I'm your nanny, Gabriel. And to the people in that house, that's all I'll ever be. She leaned in and kissed his forehead, then turned her back and walked away down the sidewalk, barefoot and alone. He remained there, frozen, watching the only woman who had never once abandoned him disappear into the night, as if she were nobody at all. It's the kind of scene that leaves a lump in your throat. To see Elina expelled that way, to feel the same helpless rage that was boiling inside Gabriel, is to know that the world still has people who value those who truly care. 12 years earlier, little Gabriel, just 5 years old, was gasping in the back seat of the car. His face was flushed, his small mouth open as he desperately tried to pull in air. Beside him, his mother, Catherine, was hysterical, crying as she screamed at the driver. He's choking. My God, my son is choking. But it was Elina who acted. From her seat in the front, she leaped over into the back, took the boy firmly in her arms, and turned his small body onto his side. It's his bronchitis, she yelled, her voice cutting through the panic. I warned you about this yesterday. While Catherine trembled, Elina moved with a calm precision that seemed almost instinctual. She administered firm but gentle pats to Gabriel's back, supported his head, and monitored his breathing. There was a ragged wheeze, a terrifying silence, and then finally a thin, gasping cry. The air had returned. The little boy clung to her neck, burying his face in her shoulder. Catherine collapsed in a heap on the car floor. You saved his life. I don't know what to say. Elina simply adjusted the boy in her lap, as if she had done this 1,000 times before. He feels like my own son, too. Catherine took her hand, her grip tight. Your family now, Elina. Your family. The phrase became a symbol between them. That night, Elina sat by Gabriel's bed until he fell asleep, his head resting on a pillow that held a worn-out blouse of hers. He could only sleep with her scent nearby. Over the years, she was the one at parent-teacher conferences when his parents were traveling. She was the one who nursed him through fevers and made him breakfast with smiley faces made of fruit. She listened to his fears, scolded him gently, and always followed it with a hug. After his mother passed away when he was 9 and his father was perpetually absent, it was just the two of them. In the silence of the huge house, Elina shouldered the grief for them both. From then on, Gabriel started a new ritual. Every single night before bed, he would whisper the same question in her ear. You're my real mother, aren't you? She would only smile, never saying yes, but never saying no. And for him, that was enough. The morning after the party, Gabriel awoke with a cold, clear resolve. His father was waiting for him for a quick meeting in the mansion study. The mahogany desk, the paintings of dead animals on the walls, the barricade of framed diplomas. Everything was designed to intimidate. Still upset about last night? Carlos asked without looking up from his tablet. Gabriel remained standing, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. What you all did to Elina was disgusting. It was an unfortunate accident. She overreacted. You know how sensitive her kind can be. Her kind? You mean your friends? Gabriel shot back, his voice low and steady. Because she has never, ever embarrassed you. The people who did that were in your living room. Carlos let out a dry, cynical laugh. Gabriel, you are about to be a man. It's time you started acting like one. She is an employee, not family. A boy stops confusing his nanny with his mother the day he learns how to tie his own tie. Gabriel didn't say another word. He walked out of the study, went straight to his room, and locked the door. He pulled old shoeboxes from the back of his closet, filled with his mother's letters, faded notes, photographs, and a small flash drive. On it were years of digital memories, birthday parties, vacations, candid moments. In every single video, Elina was there, either holding him as a child, tending to a scraped knee, or just listening patiently as he told a rambling story. And then, on the oldest recording, he found it, his mother, Catherine, speaking directly to the camera, her voice clear and earnest. If I'm ever gone, she said, and anyone ever asks who Gabriel's mother truly is, show them this woman. She taught me how to be a mother. She saved all of us. She is more than family. Gabriel paused the video, wiped his eyes, took a deep breath, and picked up his phone. He called the family's event coordinators. I'm planning my own 18th birthday party, he announced, his voice firm. But this time, I will personally approve every single name on the guest list. I will also be giving a speech. He paused, then added one more thing, asking that a special personalized invitation be sent by courier immediately. You are my guest of honor, he wrote on the card. Across the city, Elina opened a thick, elegant envelope and read his words in silence. It took a full minute before she sank onto the edge of her bed. One hand pressed to her chest as if to calm her own heart. At the bottom of the invitation, in Gabriel's elegant cursive, was one more line. It's time for the world to know who you really are. The ballroom for this new party was even grander than the one at the Sterling Mansion. This time, however, the guest list had been curated by Gabriel himself, line by painstaking line. The theme was classic, but the air in the ballroom was thick with tension. Elina had hesitated until the very last minute. She wore a simple navy blue suit, the same one she wore for Sunday Mass. Gabriel had sent a car for her, and in the back seat, she clutched the invitation to her chest. I shouldn't be going, she murmured to the empty car. They'll just laugh at me again. At the entrance, however, the security guard glanced at her name on the list and immediately stepped aside, holding the door for her. Inside, Letitia Sterling was holding court, swirling a glass of red wine and speaking loudly as if the previous party had never happened. Oh, another one of these parties with a conscience, she said to a group of women. I wonder how long until we're treated to a lecture on charity by a spoiled heir. As Elina passed through the room, the guests watched her with hushed whispers and discreet glances. But this time, Elina did not lower her eyes. She kept her head held high, walking with a quiet dignity, pretending not to hear the murmurs, or she did, not to care. At that moment, Gabriel appeared at the top of the grand staircase, dressed in a sharp, dark suit, but pointedly without a tie. He descended slowly, his eyes scanning the crowd. When he saw her, a small, reassuring smile touched his lips. He took the microphone, drew a deep breath, and spoke. Good evening, everyone. Before the music starts or we celebrate anything, I have something I need to say. A hush fell over the hall. Many of you in this room know my last name. He began, You've heard of my father, of our family's assets and business dealings. But tonight, I don't want to talk about what I stand to inherit. I want to talk about the greatest gift I ever received, one that was given freely from the only person who has never asked for anything in return. He extended a hand toward Elina. She froze. Across the room, Letitia rolled her eyes in theatrical disbelief. He won't, Elina whispered to herself. But Gabriel's hand remained, insistent. She walked slowly toward him, the crowd's whispers dying down into a deep, watchful silence. Some guests, without knowing why, held their breath. Gabriel took her hand, his grip firm and warm. This, he said, his voice clear and strong, resonating to the silent room, is Elina Alves. But to me, she's just Elina, the person who taught me how to walk, how to think, and how to know right from wrong. The woman who saved my life when I was a child, who stayed by my side when my mother died, and who single-handedly raised me while my father was traveling the world. And tonight, he continued, his voice ringing with conviction, I'm going to say what should have been said a long, long time ago. He looked out at the sea of stunned faces. She is not just a nanny. The first crack appeared in the facade of the evening, and it was only the beginning. Gabriel let go of Elina's hand for a moment, walked to the center of the stage that had been set up for the band, and requested that the ambient music be cut. Before any toast, I want to show you all something. It's only 2 minutes long, he said, but it might just change everything. He signaled to a technician. The lights in the ballroom dimmed, and a large screen flickered to life. The first image was a tender photograph of a small child asleep with his head in Elina's lap. It was followed by short, grainy video clips of her bathing him, patiently teaching him to tie his shoelaces, and singing softly by his bedside. Some guests chuckled warmly, but then the footage changed to a shaky home video. It showed Catherine, Gabriel's late mother, sitting on the porch of their old house, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. If I'm ever gone, she said, her voice thick with emotion, and anyone ever asks who Gabriel's mother is, show them this woman. The camera panned slightly, revealing Elina in the background, sweeping leaves off the lawn, completely unaware that she was being filmed. Catherine's voice continued over the image. She taught me what it means to be a mother. She showed me how to love without expecting anything in return. She saved my life. She saved my son's life. She is more than family. The voice on the recording concluded, she is the heart of our home. The screen went black. The only sound in the vast hall was a quiet where the projector cooling down. Gabriel picked up the microphone again, his voice unwavering. She saved me. She raised me. She protected me. And she never once asked for recognition, he said, summarizing everything. Then he turned to face Elina, his own eyes now shining with tears. You have always been my mother. No one in the room seemed to be breathing. Letitia Sterling was gripping her wine glass, so tightly her knuckles were white. And in the back of the hall, Carlos Sterling tried to compose his face into a mask of indifference, but the silent, burning fury in his eyes betrayed him completely. Dozens of phones were raised, their cameras recording not a scandal, but a moment of profound truth. Some guests were openly weeping. Gabriel knelt on the floor before Elina. Forgive me, he said, his voice breaking. For every moment I allowed him to treat you like you were invisible. She sank to her knees as well, unable to stand. They embraced in the center of the ballroom, and right there, with no makeup, no jewels, and no pretense, the party found its heart. She was no longer the nanny. She was the truth the room had tried so hard to ignore. For a long moment after they embraced, the only sound was the clicking of phone cameras. Then, a single pair of hands began to clap. It was joined by another and another, until the room erupted in a wave of thunderous, sustained applause. It wasn't polite. It was the sound of 100 people feeling a deep sense of shame for having stood by and said nothing. Gabriel rose, gently helping Elina to her feet. She was still trembling. Across the ballroom, Letitia Sterling tried to make a discreet exit, but she was stopped. Not by security, but by a wall of cold stares from her peers. One woman stepped in her path. So that was the maid you were so disgusted by? That boy's mother. Others close in, their voices like ice. The video is already trending. Good luck explaining this to your brand partners. Letitia tried to form a defense, but the words caught in her throat, empty and useless. A man in a sharp suit approached her. I'm the regional manager for the jewelry brand you represent. Consider our endorsement contract terminated, effective immediately. We do not align ourselves with the kind of hateful discrimination you've displayed. She turned and almost ran, her high heel catching on the plush carpet as she stumbled away, for the first time in her life with no audience to perform for. At the back of the room, Carlos Sterling remained motionless, his face a storm of conflicting pride and humiliation. Gabriel spoke into the microphone one last time. I grew up surrounded by every possible luxury, but I was missing the one thing that truly matters: courage. Tonight, I want to do what my father never did. I want to give this woman the place she has always deserved. As he spoke, the screen behind him lit up again, this time displaying the elegant logo of a new charitable foundation, the Elina Institute, and beneath it, its mission: to nurture is the lead. He was too old to start from scratch, but perhaps Gabriel wasn't. Carlos extended his hand. She took it. Her grip was firm, not with resentment, but with a quiet sense of resolve. From that day forward, he understood forgiveness would have to be earned. 1 year later, in the center of a once-neglected city neighborhood, a new building drew the eye. It was a modern, low-slung building with a pristine garden, and above the entrance, a simple, elegant plaque read, the Elina Institute. To nurture is to lead. Inside, the hallways buzzed with life. Children ran and played. Young mothers filled out intake forms for daycare and job training, and counselors organized workshops. In a glass-walled office overlooking the courtyard, Elina organized paperwork. A pair of reading glasses perched on her nose, and a badge that read Director General clipped to her simple blouse. She dressed the same as she always had, but her gaze was different now, steady, confident, and at peace. Gabriel, now taller, a beard shadowing his jawline, entered without knocking, a relaxed smile on his face. Ready for the ceremony? He asked. She looked up at him over her glasses. I've always been ready. He offered her his arm, and together, they walked out the stage set up in front of the building. The local press was there, along with neighborhood residents, former staff from the Sterling house, and, standing near the back, alone, was Carlos Sterling, clapping slowly and deliberately. Gabriel took the stage and gave a brief speech. This institute is more than just a project, he said, his voice clear. It is a collective apology. An apology to all the Elinas, scattered across this country, who raise, educate, and save others, and are almost never truly seen. Elina was then called to the microphone. She looked at the crowd, at the building bearing her name, and at the boy who was now a man by her side. She said only one thing: a mother is the one who cares. Catherine's words, spoken into a camera so many years ago, were now etched on the facade of the building, printed on its official documents, and held in the hearts of everyone there. If this story truly moved you, consider the best way to say thank you to all the Elinas in the world. Thank you so much for watching this video until the end. If Elina and Gabriel's story touched you, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. We'd love to know your thoughts, so please leave a comment telling us what the most emotional moment was for you. Your support makes all the difference.